Welcome to my YouTube channel, VitaBite. What if the most powerful brain repair system in your life was already built into your body, quietly waiting for the right signal to switch on every single night, not inside a hospital, not hidden in an expensive supplement bottle, not locked behind some complicated wellness routine only a few people can follow? Imagine discovering that the 2 hours before sleep could determine whether your brain slowly weakens with age or begins restoring itself while you rest. Most people over 60 believe memory loss is unavoidable. They assume brain fog, slower thinking, forgotten names, and fading focus are simply the price of getting older. But modern neuroscience is revealing something very different. The aging brain is not simply wearing out. In many cases, it is being deprived of the exact nutrients, timing, and biological conditions it needs to repair itself. And one of the biggest opportunities for healing happens at night. While you sleep, your brain enters a highly active repair phase. It cleans out waste, restores damaged cells, strengthens memory pathways, and resets the chemistry responsible for focus and clarity. But whether that process works efficiently depends heavily on what happens before you go to bed. The wrong foods can interrupt the entire cycle. Blood sugar spikes, inflammation, processed snacks, and alcohol can interfere with the brain's overnight maintenance system, but the right foods can help amplify it. Tonight, we are going to explore 3 surprisingly powerful fruits that research now links to brain repair, memory protection, deep sleep, and cognitive resilience after 60. These are not exotic superfoods that cost a fortune. They are accessible, practical foods supported by real scientific evidence. And this is not going to be another vague wellness conversation filled with empty promises. We are talking about actual physiology. We're going deep into the science of mitochondria, neuroinflammation, melatonin, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and the glymphatic system, the brain's own waste-clearing network. Researchers from institutions around the world are now studying how simple nutritional strategies can influence the mechanisms connected to Alzheimer's disease, cognitive decline, and healthy brain aging. So why does this matter even more after 60? Because several critical systems inside the body begin changing at the same time. The brain starts producing lower levels of BDNF, a growth factor that helps neurons survive and build new connections. Your mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside brain cells, become less efficient and accumulate damage faster than the body can remove it. Your gut microbiome begins shifting in ways that affect neurotransmitter production. And the glymphatic system, the cleaning network that removes waste from the brain during deep sleep, becomes less effective with age. This matters because the glymphatic system works hardest during the first few hours of deep sleep. During that window, cerebrospinal fluid flows through the spaces between brain cells, flushing out waste products linked to neurodegenerative disease, including amyloid plaques and tau proteins. If this cleaning process becomes impaired night after night, the damage slowly builds over time. That's why timing matters so much. Researchers are increasingly pointing toward the 1 to 2 hour window before sleep as one of the most important opportunities to support overnight brain repair. Tonight, we'll explore 6 key insights behind this science. We'll talk about how damaged mitochondria contribute to memory decline, why inflammation inside the brain accelerates aging, how BDNF helps protect memory pathways, why melatonin production changes after 60, how the gut-brain connection influences cognitive health, and why deep, slow-wave sleep may be the most underrated anti-aging tool available. And at the center of all of it are 3 fruits that work in very different but deeply connected ways. The first supports mitochondrial cleanup and cellular repair. The second boosts memory pathways and neuroplasticity. And the third helps trigger the deep, restorative sleep your brain desperately needs to heal itself overnight. Once you understand how these foods interact with your biology, you'll never look at your evening routine the same way again. The first fruit we need to talk about is pomegranate. And what makes this fruit remarkable is not just what it contains, but what happens after you eat it. To understand why researchers are so interested in pomegranate for brain aging, imagine your brain cells as massive factories working around the clock. Inside every one of those factories are thousands of tiny energy generators called mitochondria. These structures produce the energy your neurons need to think clearly, process information, store memories, and communicate with one another. But as the body ages, those energy generators begin to break down. damaged mitochondria start producing less clean energy and more toxic byproducts. Over time, they create inflammation and interfere with the function of healthy brain cells. Fortunately, the body has a built-in cleanup process called mitophagy. Think of it as the brain's quality control department. It identifies damaged mitochondria, removes them, and clears space for healthier cellular function. The problem is that this process becomes less efficient with age. When mitophagy slows down, damaged mitochondria accumulate inside neurons, increasing oxidative stress and inflammation. Scientists now believe this is one of the major drivers behind cognitive decline and neurodegenerative disease. This is where pomegranate becomes incredibly interesting. Pomegranates contain compounds called ellagitanins and ellagic acid. On their own, these compounds are valuable, but the real transformation happens in the gut. Certain beneficial bacteria convert them into a metabolite called urolithin A. And according to emerging research, urolithin A may be one of the strongest natural activators of mitophagy discovered so far. A major study published in 2024 found that urolithin A improved learning and memory while also reducing neuroinflammation in Alzheimer's disease models. Researchers observed improvements in the brain's ability to remove damaged mitochondria and restore cellular cleanup systems. What made the findings especially fascinating was that the effects appeared comparable to some of the most discussed longevity compounds in modern anti-aging research. Think about what this means. A compound produced naturally by your gut bacteria after eating a fruit may help restore one of the most important repair systems in the aging brain. Another important detail is timing. The conversion of pomegranate compounds into urolithin A takes several hours. That means eating pomegranate in the evening aligns remarkably well with the brain's overnight repair cycle. While you sleep, the glymphatic system becomes more active, cellular cleanup intensifies, and the body shifts into restoration mode. At the same time, your gut bacteria are producing compounds that may support mitochondrial renewal. In other words, you are synchronizing nutrition with the body's natural biology. Researchers also discovered that urolithin A activates pathways connected to cellular longevity, inflammation control, and DNA repair. This is why scientists are now studying it not just for brain aging, but for muscle health, metabolic function, and overall resilience as we grow older. So how should pomegranate actually be used? The simplest approach is half to one full pomegranate in the evening, ideally about 1 to 2 hours before bed. The seeds contain the beneficial polyphenols responsible for these effects. If fresh pomegranate is difficult to find, pure unsweetened pomegranate juice can also work, but avoiding added sugar is critical. Pairing pomegranate with healthy fats may also improve absorption. A few walnuts, some plain yogurt, or a small drizzle of olive oil can help the body utilize the polyphenols more effectively. But there's another layer here that many people overlook. Because urolithin A production depends on gut bacteria, the health of your microbiome matters. Highly processed foods, excess sugar, and poor dietary habits can reduce the populations of bacteria needed for this conversion. That means supporting the gut with fiber-rich foods, fermented foods, and a balanced diet may be essential for unlocking the full benefits. And once you understand that connection, you begin to see the bigger picture. Brain health is never just about the brain. It is about sleep, gut health, inflammation, energy production, and the systems working together behind the scenes every night while you rest. Now let's move to the second fruit, blueberries. Most people have heard that blueberries are healthy, but very few understand how specifically they interact with the aging brain. These tiny berries contain compounds called anthocyanins, the pigments responsible for their deep blue and purple color. But these pigments do much more than create color. They belong to a family of flavonoids that can cross the blood-brain barrier, something very few dietary compounds are capable of doing. That matters because the blood-brain barrier acts like a security system. It carefully controls what enters the brain. Many nutrients never make it through. Anthocyanins do. And once inside, they begin influencing several systems directly connected to memory and cognitive performance. One of the most important is BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Scientists often describe BDNF as fertilizer for the brain. It supports the growth of new neurons, strengthens communication between brain cells, and helps protect existing neural pathways from degeneration. Unfortunately, BDNF levels tend to decline with age, particularly after 60. This decline is significant because lower BDNF is linked to reduced neuroplasticity, slower learning, weaker memory formation, and increased vulnerability to cognitive decline. In simple terms, the brain becomes less adaptable and less capable of repairing itself. Research shows that blueberry anthocyanins can help reverse part of this process. A large study published in Neurology followed thousands of participants over many years and found that people who regularly consumed anthocyanin-rich foods experienced significantly lower rates of cognitive decline. Even small daily servings appeared to provide measurable benefits. But the deeper mechanism becomes even more interesting. Studies suggest that blueberry compounds increase activity in the hippocampus, the region of the brain responsible for memory formation, and one of the areas most vulnerable to Alzheimer's-related damage. A clinical trial published in Frontiers in Psychology found that older adults with mild cognitive impairment experienced improvements in memory and cognitive function after consuming polyphenol-rich blueberry extracts. Researchers linked these improvements to elevated BDNF levels and enhanced neuronal signaling. Another study showed that regular blueberry consumption improved processing speed in older adults experiencing mild cognitive decline. Researchers from the University of Cincinnati also found improvements in memory interference and verbal access among individuals at higher risk for dementia. What makes blueberries especially powerful before bed is the timing of their effects. Research shows that flavonoid-rich foods increase cerebral blood flow approximately 2 hours after consumption. This means that eating blueberries in the evening may align peak blood flow and BDNF activity with the brain's most important memory consolidation phases during sleep. While you rest, your brain is replaying information from the day, transferring short-term memories into long-term storage, strengthening neural pathways, and reinforcing learning patterns. Supporting that process with compounds that enhance blood flow and neuroplasticity creates a powerful biological advantage. There's also another major benefit. Blueberry anthocyanins appear to reduce neuroinflammation, one of the hidden drivers behind age-related cognitive decline. Chronic inflammation damages neurons, disrupts communication pathways, and accelerates oxidative stress inside the brain. By helping lower inflammatory activity, blueberries may protect brain cells from long-term wear and tear. The practical approach is simple. Around half a cup to 1 cup of blueberries in the evening is enough for most people. Fresh and frozen blueberries both work well. In fact, frozen berries are often harvested and preserved at peak ripeness, sometimes giving them even higher antioxidant levels. You can eat them alone, mix them with unsweetened Greek yogurt, or blend them into a light smoothie with spinach and almond milk. The key is avoiding added sugar. Sweetened blueberry snacks, syrups, and processed products can spike blood sugar and interfere with sleep quality, canceling out many of the benefits. And when you combine blueberries with the sleep-supportive effects of the third fruit we're about to discuss, the entire system begins working together in a much deeper way. The third fruit surprises many people because it rarely gets the same attention as blueberries or pomegranate. Yet when it comes to sleep and overnight brain restoration, kiwi fruit may be one of the most underrated foods in nutrition science. To understand why kiwi matters so much, we need to talk about sleep differently. Sleep is not simply rest, it is active neurological maintenance. During deep sleep, the brain removes waste, repairs cellular damage, balances neurotransmitters, and consolidates memories. Without enough deep sleep, these repair systems begin breaking down. This becomes especially important after 60 because melatonin production naturally declines with age. By the time many people reach their 70s, melatonin levels may be less than half of what they were decades earlier. That decline affects far more than bedtime comfort. It changes the quality of slow-wave sleep, the exact stage where the glymphatic system becomes most active. When slow-wave sleep is reduced, the brain spends less time clearing waste products like amyloid beta and tau proteins. Over time, that buildup contributes to neurodegeneration and cognitive decline. This is where kiwi fruit becomes remarkably effective. Kiwi contains naturally occurring melatonin, along with serotonin and amino acids that support neurotransmitter production. Serotonin acts as a precursor to melatonin, meaning it helps the body create the hormone responsible for regulating sleep cycles. Kiwi also provides compounds like tryptophan and glutamic acid, which contribute to the production of calming neurotransmitters associated with relaxation and sleep quality. A study published in Frontiers in Nutrition found that people who consumed kiwi in the evening experienced measurable improvements in sleep quality, morning alertness, and reduced sleep disturbances. Researchers observed increases in metabolites connected to both serotonin and melatonin activity. Another study involving athletes found that eating 2 kiwi fruits before bed improved sleep quality and overnight recovery. Perhaps even more importantly, research published in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adults consuming kiwi before bedtime spent more time in slow-wave sleep. And that matters enormously because slow-wave sleep is where the brain performs its deepest maintenance work. Think about the chain reaction happening inside the body. Kiwi supports serotonin production. Serotonin converts into melatonin. Melatonin helps trigger deeper sleep. Deep sleep activates the glymphatic system. The glymphatic system clears waste and inflammatory debris, while the hippocampus organizes and stores memories. You wake up with a brain that has literally gone through an overnight cleaning and restoration cycle. This is not theoretical wellness language. It is measurable biology. The ideal protocol is surprisingly simple. 2 medium kiwi fruits, approximately 1 hour before bed. Many researchers recommend eating the skin as well, because it contains additional fiber and polyphenols, although blending the kiwi into a smoothie is perfectly fine if texture is an issue. Some people combine kiwi with tart cherry juice for an additional sleep supportive effect. Tart cherries contain both melatonin and anthocyanins, making them another useful option for supporting overnight recovery. But what becomes truly powerful is when kiwi, blueberries, and pomegranate are used together strategically. Kiwi helps deepen sleep and activate the brain's nighttime cleaning system. Blueberries deliver anthocyanins that support BDNF and memory consolidation. Pomegranate feeds gut bacteria compounds that support mitochondrial cleanup and inflammation control. 3 fruits, 3 different mechanisms. 1 coordinated overnight repair process. And this is exactly why timing matters. During the day, the body is focused on activity, stress response, digestion, and external demands. At night, biology shifts toward restoration. By eating the right foods before sleep, you are essentially giving your brain raw materials precisely when it is preparing to repair itself. Most people spend years searching for complicated anti-aging solutions while ignoring the biological repair window available every single night. But once you understand what the brain is actually trying to do during sleep, these strategies begin to make perfect sense. Now let's bring all of these pieces together because brain health is never about one isolated food or one miracle compound. The body functions as an interconnected system, and the real power appears when multiple mechanisms begin supporting each other simultaneously. Imagine what happens during a typical evening when these fruits are used strategically. About 1 hour before sleep, kiwi begins supporting serotonin and melatonin pathways, helping the brain transition into deeper and more stable sleep cycles. At the same time, blueberry anthocyanins are crossing the blood-brain barrier and increasing activity in pathways connected to BDNF, blood flow, and memory consolidation. Meanwhile, compounds from pomegranate are moving through the digestive system, where gut bacteria begin converting them into urolithin A, a metabolite connected to mitochondrial cleanup and reduced neuroinflammation. As sleep deepens, the glymphatic system activates. Cerebrospinal fluid moves through the brain, clearing waste products and metabolic debris. The hippocampus begins organizing memories from the day. Damaged mitochondria are targeted for removal. Inflammatory activity decreases. Neural connections strengthen. All of this happens while you are asleep. This is why the conversation around aging needs to change. Too many people assume cognitive decline is automatic, but science increasingly shows that lifestyle, nutrition, sleep quality, and inflammation strongly influence how the brain ages. That does not mean food alone can prevent every neurological disease, but it does mean the brain responds dynamically to the environment you create. And after 60, that environment matters more than ever. Before 60, the body often compensates for poor habits surprisingly well. The brain can tolerate disrupted sleep, excess sugar, inflammation, and nutritional gaps for years before symptoms appear. But eventually those protective buffers become thinner. BDNF lines, sleep quality weakens, melatonin production drops, gut microbiome diversity decreases, mitochondrial damage accumulates faster. This is exactly when precise, intentional nutrition becomes critically important. Now, one question many people ask is whether eating fruit before bed could negatively affect blood sugar. The answer depends on the fruit, portion size, and what you pair it with. Blueberries, kiwi, and pomegranate all have relatively moderate glycemic loads when eaten in reasonable portions. They do not create the same rapid glucose spikes associated with processed desserts and sugary snacks. In fact, pairing them with healthy fats or protein can make them even more stable. Greek yogurt, walnuts, almond butter, or a few nuts can help slow glucose absorption and maintain more balanced insulin levels overnight. And stable blood sugar matters because elevated nighttime glucose can interfere with sleep architecture, increase cortisol, and contribute to inflammation, all of which negatively affect brain health. There is also one honorable mention worth discussing: tart cherries, especially Montmorency cherries. Researchers have found that tart cherries contain both anthocyanins and natural melatonin. Studies suggest they may improve sleep duration, sleep efficiency, and inflammatory markers. Some evidence even shows tart cherry compounds accumulating in brain tissue, where they may help reduce inflammation associated with aging. While tart cherries may not always be available, fresh, unsweetened tart cherry juice can still be a valuable addition to an evening routine. But the larger message here goes beyond any single fruit. Your brain is not passively aging while you watch life happen. Every night, it is either moving toward repair or toward deeper dysfunction, depending on the biological environment you create. And once you recognize that, your evening routine stops being random. It becomes strategic. Everything we've covered tonight comes down to one powerful idea. The brain is constantly responding to signals. Signals from food, signals from sleep, signals from inflammation, stress, and metabolic health. And those signals shape whether the brain repairs itself effectively or slowly declines over time. After 60, 3 biological needs become especially important. First, the brain needs deep, restorative sleep, so the glymphatic system can remove waste and inflammatory debris. Second, it needs neurotrophic support compounds like BDNF that help maintain and rebuild neural connections. And third, it needs efficient mitochondrial cleanup to prevent damaged cellular machinery from driving inflammation and energy failure inside neurons. What makes these 3 fruits so fascinating is that each one supports one of those critical systems. Blueberries help elevate BDNF, improve blood flow, and support memory consolidation during sleep. Pomegranate provides compounds that gut bacteria convert into urolithin A, supporting mitochondrial renewal and cellular cleanup pathways connected to healthy aging. Kiwi helps increase the neurochemical conditions necessary for deeper, more restorative sleep. Together, they create a coordinated support system for the aging brain. And the science behind this is not speculative. Researchers from universities and medical institutions around the world are actively studying how nutrition influences neurodegenerative disease, cognitive performance, and brain aging. What's encouraging is that these foods are accessible. You don't need an extreme diet. You don't need expensive protocols. You don't need to completely overhaul your life overnight. Sometimes, meaningful change begins with one consistent decision repeated daily. So here's the challenge. For the next 2 weeks, choose one of these fruits and make it part of your evening routine approximately 1 hour before sleep. Pay attention to your sleep quality. Notice your mental clarity in the morning. Observe whether your focus, memory, or brain fog begins to shift. Because many people have spent years accepting exhaustion and forgetfulness as normal aging when, in reality, the brain may simply be missing the conditions it needs to repair itself efficiently. And perhaps the most important takeaway from tonight is this: your brain is not finished healing. The body remains adaptable far longer than most people realize. Neuroplasticity continues throughout life. Repair systems remain active. New neural connections can still form. The brain still responds to the right signals. The question is whether we consistently provide those signals. Every night before bed, you are creating a chemical environment that either supports repair or interferes with it. That choice matters more than most people understand. So tonight, instead of reaching for processed snacks, sugar, or late-night comfort foods that disrupt sleep and increase inflammation, try giving your brain something different. Give it nutrients that support deep sleep. Give it compounds that protect neurons. Give it the raw materials required for restoration.